Okay, first thing you can be asked to do is determine if this quadratic function opens up or down. Why does it open up? Because A is 2. Now, I'm talking about this 2 here, right? Maybe I should not have used two 2's here. Right, this is your A right here. So since, I'm going to go ahead and make this one right here a 3, so I don't use the same numbers. Just make that a 3. So since A is 2, which is positive, the parabola is going to open up. Okay. All right. Now, next part was where you found the vertex. What's the vertex? Yep. -3, -6. So remember, it's x minus a -3. So you got to think like this: x minus -3. So h is -3. All right. C, y-intercept. So to find the y-intercept, you're going to let x equals 0. So you go back to your function. Wherever you see the variable x, you can plug in 0. So remember, you're solving for y, so that's f of x. F of x is y. So you can say the y-intercept is going to equal 2 times, in parentheses, 0 plus 3 squared minus 6, right? So 3 squared is 9. 2 times 9 minus 6. So that's 18 minus 6, which is 12. So that is your y-intercept. Okay. So as an ordered pair, what would you write? 0, 12. Okay, now this was the one that's going to cause some of these issues. So you got to find, well, right, for some it won't, but those of you that had issues with solving quadratic equation using this word property, and you didn't go back and fix it, then you probably will. So you got to work on that. You got to work on it. So to find the x-intercept, you're going to let y equals 0. So that's f of x, right? So this whole function, I'm going to set equal to 0. So I'm going to say 2 times x plus 3 squared minus 6 equals 0. And on test 1, how'd you solve this equation? Bring the 6 over, okay, so I'm going to do that first. This is what I have. Y'all agree that's the first thing you have to do? What's the next thing you have to do? Divide both sides by 2, because you got to get that binomial squared by itself. Now, remember, we had a discussion a while back. Can you distribute this 2 in here? No, because that's not a 1. That exponent is a 2. So you have to divide by 2 next. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 times x plus 3 squared is x plus 3 squared equal 3. Now, what's the next step? Take the square root of both sides. That was the next step, the plus and minus. So the square and the square root do each other. You get x plus 3 equal plus or minus the square root of 3. Okay, now, when on the first test, just remind you about the first test. From the first test, and you were asked to solve, let's say I'm going to change this. When you did all this, let's say you got something like x plus 3 squared equal 24. Okay? I'm just made this up, just to remind you about something. We did the square both sides. You get plus and minus, right? Okay, and then the square and the square root do each other, so you get x plus 3 equal plus or minus square root of 24. On the first test, when you solved this equation, the directions also said to make sure you do what to this? Simplify. Okay? So you have to simplify this from first test. For this, though, although you can't simplify, but even if you could, you wouldn't, because you're just interested in finding the what? X-intercepts. You just want to know, where does the graph cross the what? X-axis. So don't simplify anything here. Now, you're going to need your calculator, though. See how this is an irrational number? All right, so you're going to write it into two equations like this. X plus 3 equals square root of 3, and then x plus 3 equals what? Negative square root of 3. All right, so here's what I would do. I would approximate the square root of 3 and just use 1 decimal place to the tenths place. So on your calculator, approximate the square root of 3. So 3 square root of 3 square root of 3 equals, you got something like 1.8 or something? I'm sorry, 1.7, yes, 1.7. Okay? So x plus 3 is approximately equal to 1.7. X plus 3 is approximately equal to what? Negative 1.7. And then all you do is subtract 3 from both sides, from both cases. And then your x-intercept is approximately equal to what? What's 1.7 minus 3? Negative 1.3. On the other one? Well, yes, so if you said, like the square root of 3, if you look at the square root of 3, watch. If you said the square root of 3, look, the square root of 3, close the parentheses, and then subtract what was it, 3? You still get 1.3, right? So we said 1.4. Okay, it's 1 point, can't see it, but I get 1.26, which is 1.3, correct? Negative? Over here, negative 1.7 subtract 3, negative 1.7 subtract 3, did you get negative 4.7? So here, x is approximately equal to negative 4.7. So those are your x-intercepts. Those are your x-intercepts. Now, as an ordered pairs, you're going to write it as, what's the first one? Negative 1.30. What's the other one? Yeah, okay. All right. So when graphing these, don't simplify. Now here you could anyway, but if you could, don't simplify this. Now, on test 2, if you're given a quadratic equation and it's said to simplify, then you simplify. But with finding the x-intercepts, don't do that. You just want to know where does it graph cross the x-axis. So don't waste your time doing the simplification. But you did have to approximate, because there's no way you could have told me where the square root of 3 is. No one would have known that. You have to use your calculator to approximate that. Huh? What was that? Well, on the worksheet, you're going to have an irrational number, so you're going to have to use your calculator. Okay, so you do have to practice with that. You have time on the worksheet to do this. Now, in the final, they usually make it to where this is a rational number. It turns out to be rational.
You don't like the finals?
The people higher up.
The math department. Well, the math
No, they make a department final, so everybody takes the same final. Everybody takes the same final. All right. E. Okay, what was the next thing we found? To find the axis symmetry, you have to use the vertex. The vertex was -3, -6, right? Okay, so what's the axis symmetry? All right. Now, before I go any further, one of the things, and in the video, I didn't do it in class, but I did do it in video. I'm going to go back to D just to tell you what I should have asked you. Before doing all of this work, you should have asked yourself, first of all, am I going to have x-intercepts? That's what you should have asked yourself. Because remember, we saw that you're always going to have which intercept? A y, but you may or may not have an x. So before I did all that, here's what you should have asked yourself. You should have asked yourself, am I going to have x-intercepts? If I do, I'm going to do all this work. If I'm not, and you will not at some times, then don't waste your time doing this because there isn't any. So to determine if there are x-intercepts, here's what you do. You take the vertex. What's the vertex? All right, in your mind, you know that that's located in what quadrant? The third quadrant. So let's say it's here, right? Does the graph open up or down? So that's one of the questions we asked earlier, right? So will it cross the x-axis? Yes. So that means you're going to have what? X-intercepts, so you find them. Okay? So they're on the worksheet. I think it's on the worksheet, but if it had gone down, then would there be any x-intercepts? No. So then you don't do anything. You just say no x-intercepts. Then you go on. Okay? All right. So there's one in the video like that to see. Remember, you have to get 5 points. So you still need 5 points. You're not gonna have any x-intercepts, so you gotta come up with some other points. All right. So the x-intercept is x equal to -3. Then f was what we graphed, correct? Okay. So let's graph this. So once the first one took a long time because you're getting through each part. Now it's getting a little bit quicker because you know what to expect. So we're going to graph the vertex first. What's the vertex? -3, -6. So that's here, right? Then we're going to graph the y-intercept. What's the y-intercept? All right, so I'm going to extend this a little. So let's say 12 is here. So right here, right? See up here? Y'all agree it's up here? Okay. What's the x-intercepts? Give me the first one. Okay, -1.3. Be careful when you estimate it. So -1.3. So -1.3, you agree is about here? Right? Yeah. Okay, what was the other one? -4.7. So that's about here. Then the next thing we graphed was the what? The axis symmetry. So take your ruler and you draw the axis symmetry. Something like that, right? Now go back to the x-intercept. Do you agree that these are symmetrical about the axis symmetry? So that distance kind of looks like the same as that distance? Okay. I have how many points though? Nope, I have 4. So I need one more. So to get that 5th one, just use this one, right? So that distance, now look, I'm counting. I'm counting the distance. Look, 1, 2, 3. Y'all agree that's 3 units from the axis symmetry? So go 3 units the other way. 1, 2, 3. So we get this point here. You see it? So right here, so 3. Count 3. 3 units. 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3. You agree? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Now all you do is just connect the dots. Just connect them, do the best you can. Something like this. You use erase if you need to. Just do the best you can. It's a little bit harder to graph when they're farther away from each other. Okay, this is not that great. But make it look symmetrical. Erase if you need to. Okay, erase if you need to. All right, and guys, it really doesn't. See how it kind of looks like it's curving like this? It doesn't, right? Okay, so I didn't draw it very well. It's harder to graph when the points are further away from each other. All right, could be a better graph than this. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. And then H, domain and range. Domain for all quadratic functions is what? G. Range. All right, the range, you're going to go along your y-axis. So it'll be from this y-coordinate all the way to infinity. What's this y-coordinate? Okay, so bracket -6 to infinity. You're talking about domain and range. So domain and range is brackets. Okay, where's f of x increasing, decreasing? So remember, those are open intervals. Okay, good. So remember, you got to use your domain to do this. So you're going from -3 to infinity. What are your y values doing? Remember, f of x is y. So what are your y values doing? Increasing. So from -3 to infinity. Open intervals. And then it's decreasing from -infinity to -3. All right? Okay, I suppose the question is this. So is there a maximum or minimum? All right, so f of x has a minimum point. Okay, so the minimum value is blank, and it occurs at x equal blank. So what's the minimum value? So if you label the point at vertex, what's that vertex? -3, -6. So what's the minimum value? And it occurs at x is what? All right, so that was happening. Very quick. Once you do the first one, the rest is easy. It's okay. All right, let's do one with general form. Okay, general form. So number 3, suppose f of x is 2x squared minus 4x minus 5. So 2x squared minus 4x minus 5. I made this up, so I don't know what's going to look like. Okay, but I made sure that the vertex was going to be 2 integers. All right, so first of all, does the prop open up or down? Because A is what?
5.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and just point to determine what A is. A is 2, B is -4, and C is -5, not 5. -5. So since A is 2, which is positive, the parabola opens up, right? Okay, B, we got to find the vertex. So that's going to take us a few minutes, maybe 1 minute and a half or so. So remember, the vertex is negative b over 2a, comma, f of negative b over 2a. So we got to find the x coordinate of the vertex. So the x coordinate of the vertex, negative b over 2a. So this says I take the opposite of b. What's b? What's the opposite of -4? Okay. Over 2 times a, what's a? So we have 4 over 4, which is 1. So my vertex, the x coordinate is 1. To find the y coordinate, I'm going to find f of 1. Right, but we know it's what? 1. F of 1. So in place of x, I'm going to plug in 1. So the other I'm going to get 2 times x, what's x? And what do I do that? 1 squared minus 4 times x. What's x? 1, and then minus 5. So 1 squared is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Minus 4 minus 5. So that's a -2 minus 5, which is a -7. All right, so I found the vertex. Okay, C, there's always going to be a y-intercept. Now, would you compare this, finding this y-intercept with finding the y-intercept from the other one? The other one was a little bit more challenging. It wasn't hard. I mean, you could do it. But this one's easy. Watch why this one's easy. To find the y-intercept, you do what? X is 0. So when x is 0, what happens to these first two terms? They're 0. So all you're left with is your what? Your constant, your c, right? So in fact, when it's written in general form, do you see that the y-intercept is always going to be c? Because x squared and x will always be what? 0. So your y-intercept is always c. Now, if you don't remember that, then you just let x be 0. When x is 0, what's 2 times 0 squared? 0. What's negative 4 times 0? And you're left with what? Negative 5. Okay? So the y-intercept, if you do the work, you would say y equal 2 times 0 squared minus 4 times 0 minus 5. So that's 0 plus 0 minus 5 is negative 5. But all you have to remember, that when it's in general form, the y-intercept is c. Just whatever c is. So c is negative 5. As an ordered pair, what is that? Yeah. Okay, D, the x-intercepts, if any. Okay, before we find it, if there are any, let's see if there is any. What's the vertex? Where's that located? What quadrant? No, quadrant 4, right? Quadrant 4. And does a problem open up or down? So you're going to have any? Yes. So you're going to have x-intercept, so let's find it. All right. Now, okay, listen to this. So you're going to set your function equal to what? 0. So remember, to find the x-intercept, you're going to let y equal 0. Right? What over here stands for y? All right, so you're going to take this right here and you set equal to 0. So 2x squared minus 4x minus 5 equal 0. Okay? Now compare that equation with the other one. The other equation, you had to use what property? Square root property. Here you have to use what idea? Well, it may or may not be factorable. So you may not want to spend the time seeing if this thing is factorable. You may want to go directly to using what? Quadratic formula. Use quadratic formula. Yeah. So you would say x, remember the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over what? 2a. All right. And then we found a, b, and c. A, remember, was negative 2. Oh, 2, right. Thank you. 2. B is negative 4, and c is negative 5. Because we just plug things in. So we're going to say the x-intercepts are going to equal the opposite of b. What's b in this case? What's the opposite? 4 plus or minus the square root of b, which is negative 4. What am I doing to that? Minus 4 times a. What's a? Times c. All over 2 times a. What's a? 2. So remember the first test, you had to solve a quadratic equation. So you had to go through this process. So again, you can use it now. All right, let's simplify the discriminant, the radicand. What's negative 4 squared? We got 4 plus or minus the square root of 16. A negative times a positive times a negative is a A negative times positive times a negative is a positive. Right, so negative 4 times 2 is a negative 8, and negative 8 times a negative 5 is a positive what? 40. All over 4. And so I get 4 plus or minus the square root of 56 over 4, right? Okay, now listen carefully. The square root of 56, you can simplify, but don't do it. I think you can simplify. No. What? 56 is 2 times what? What's 2 times what? 56? 13? Oh, 28? Yeah, so Yeah, you can see, yeah, 4 goes into 56, so that's perfect square. But don't simplify, because all you're interested in doing is what? Finding the X-intercepts, right? Now, on test 1, you had to do what? Simplify, because it was a different kind of question. This question here is, what are the X-intercepts? On test 1, it said, solve this quadratic equation. So you were looking at a different scenario. And so that's why in test 1, you were asked to simplify this. No, because what you're doing here is trying to plot where the X-intercepts are, right? So just use what you see in your calculator. Now here's how you just use your calculator. You gotta listen carefully to this. Okay, so listen carefully. Let's do the numerator first. The numerator says 4 plus the square root of 56, right? Okay, so here's how you can do this. You're going to say 4 plus square root 56, close that parentheses. See that you got to close it? That's it, right? Press equal. That decimal represents what part of this? The numerator. Then you divide by what? 4, press equal, and that is your X-intercept, or one of them. So 2.9, is that correct? Okay, so 1 is 2.9. So again, you're going to say 4 plus the square root of 56, press equal, and then divide by what? 4, and there's your first X-intercept. Okay? Now for the next, you're going to say 4 what? Minus. Okay, so here we go. You're going to say 4 minus the square root. Make sure you use your calculator. So did I take the wrong one? Okay. 4 minus square root 56. Close the parentheses. Press equal. And what I found was what? Numerator. But then I got divided by what? 4. Press equal. What's the other X-intercept? Is negative 0.9? Is that correct? Okay. All right. So you see what you do to find the X-intercepts. Okay. All right. How you got the 4 in front of what? That's negative b, the opposite of b. If b is negative 4, the opposite of that's positive 4. Okay? All right, E. Make sure you can use your calculator to approximate. All right, E is the axis symmetry. First of all, what's the vertex? Okay, so what's the axis symmetry? X equal 1. All right, F, graph. All right, so we're going to graph this. So we're going to graph the vertex first. So 1, negative 7. X equal 1 is the axis symmetry. All right, then we're going to graph the what? Which was negative 5. Okay, right here. Then the X-intercepts, which were, what were they approximately? What's the first? I think one was 2.9. So 2.9 is close to 3. So let's say it's here. And the other was negative 0.9, right? And that's close to negative 1, right? Okay. Close to negative 1. Oh, no, you could. Yeah, I just didn't do it. If you want to write this as ordered pair, it would be 2.9 comma 0. What's the other? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, how many points do I have? 4. Let's do the axis symmetry first before we find the 5th one. So I'm going to use the axis symmetry. Okay. And where do you think I'm going to get the 5th one from? Yeah, but where do you think I'm going to? Yeah, I'm going to use the Y-intercept. So if that distance is 1, then the other point I can get from using the same distance. So this is 1 unit to the left of the axis symmetry, so the other will be 1 unit to the right. So use that. That's the fifth you're going to use. Right, and you just graph. Now this one can be drawn a little bit better because the points are close together. Okay, and then make it look symmetrical. If you got to erase, then make sure you erase. Okay, so there's your graph. All right. G. Domain. Range. -7 to infinity. Bracket. H. Increasing. Decreasing. So from -infinity to 1, what's it doing? From -infinity to 1, what's your graph doing? Decreasing. Agree? Yes or no? Okay. And then from 1 to infinity, what's it doing? Increasing. Open intervals. The only one that you can deal with closes domain and range. With brackets, domain and range. All right, I, it's a minimum point. You know that, right? So the minimum occurs when x equal blank and has value blank. X equal what? No. Come on, your x coordinate is 1, right? So your minimum occurs when x equal what? And what's that y value? -7. Okay. Any questions on that? All right. Let's do this. So it's not that bad. Once you do a few, that's all it is. Just a little bit of work, but it's doable. You can do it. Okay, 4. This was we had this. F of x equal -3 x squared plus 6x, and I'm gonna try and make it where there's no x-intercepts this time. So let's say I may have to change this. Okay, so just for right now, put this as plus 1. Oops, sorry. Make it because it's gonna go down. Y'all agree it's gonna go down? It's gonna open down. All right, so make this -7. I'm hoping it'll work. I may have to change that C. Let's think about that for right now. Okay, so does the parabola open up or down? It opens down. It opens down since A equals -3, which is negative, right? Okay, B, let's find the vertex. All right, so A is -3, what's B? And what's C? Okay, so your vertex, now this is general form, correct? So since that's general form, you have to use the vertex form. So -b over 2a, comma, f of -b over 2a. All right, so the x coordinate of the vertex will equal -b over 2a. So this says I take the opposite of b. What's b in this case? 6. So I take the opposite of 6. I get a -6 over 2 times a. A is -3. So -6 divided by -6, which is a 1. Okay. All right. Now, define the y coordinate of your vertex. Where we see the variable x, I'm going to plug 1. So we're finding f of 1. So f of 1 then will be negative 3 times 1 squared plus 6 times 1 minus 7. This right here is going to be what? 1 squared is 1 times negative 3 is negative 3, right? Plus 6 minus 7. So that's 3 minus 7, which is what? So my vertex is 1, negative 4. What's the y-intercept? Real quick. Yeah, your y-intercept is just c, right? To find the y-intercept, you let x equal 0. But if x is 0, do you agree that these terms go away? You're left with c, negative 7. So your y-intercept is negative 7. Or if you put it as an ordered pair, it will be 0, negative 7. Okay, now let's talk about the x-intercept. The best thing to do is this. So in your mind, where is the vertex located? What quadrant? Okay, 1, negative 4 is in the 4th quadrant. So we're here, correct? Does the graph open up or down? What do you notice? So no x-intercepts. So we don't do any work here. But let's suppose you didn't see this. I want to show you something. Let's suppose you did not see this, okay? But that's the best way to do it, is to, in your mind, think about, well, do I have any? Well, it doesn't cross the x-axis, so there aren't going to be any x-intercepts. But let's suppose you did not do this. So you go back and you would let y equal 0, correct? Okay? And so that means that you would set this whole thing right here equal to what? 0. So you would say negative 3x squared plus 6x minus 7 equals 0. And then you plug that back into your quadratic formula. So a is negative 3, b is 6, c is negative 7. But watch what happens when I plug it back in. So x equals the opposite of b. What's the opposite of b? Plus or minus the square root of b, which is 6, squared, minus 4 times a, what's a? Times c, which is all over 2 times a, and a is what? Okay. Now remember, we simplified the radicand, correct? Okay, notice what happens. Negative 6 plus or minus the square root of, what's 6 squared? Okay, now, what's a negative times a negative times a negative? A negative. What's 4 times 3 times 7 in your calculator? 4 times 3, well, 12. 12 times 7 is, use your calculator. 12 times 7. What's 12 times 7? 84? I'm going to ask you this now. I'm going to ask you this. You're going to get negative 6 plus or minus the square root of what? That's that imaginary number. So right away, this is not a real number. Because the discriminant is negative. When the discriminant is negative, it's not a real number. So that means it's not going to cross the x-axis. So if you did not do this first and you went straight to this, then we got to that point where that's a complex number, that imaginary unit, that's not a real number. Your x-intercepts have to be real numbers. So then you would say go x-intercept. All right. But notice that when some of your were, you could have easily messed up with one of these numbers here. So it's also a good idea to know this. First of all, determine if you do have any. Where is it located? Is it going up or down? Does it cross the x-axis? All right, so there aren't any. Okay, so now we're going to go to E. What is E? Axis symmetry. X equal what? Okay, y'all agree? Okay, F, let's graph. All right, so we're going to graph this. So there's not many points to graph here. But you still need to use how many points? 5. You still have to use 5 points. So I know the vertex. What's the vertex? 1, -4. You all agree? Right here. The only other point I know is what? The Y-intercept. What's the Y-intercept? -7. Right here, correct? From there, I'm going to draw negative. From there, I'm going to use the axis symmetry. The axis symmetry. And then I can get a third one right away, couldn't I? Because I know the Y-intercept here, so that's 1 unit away. So then another point will be here. Y'all agree? So now I have how many points on this graph? 3. I need 2 more. So let's give me another number to the right of the axis symmetry. Oh no, I already used 2. 2 is here. 3. You see? You see that? So use x equal 3. So I'm gonna go here just like I did before. Remember that? What's my function? Was f of x equal -3x squared plus 6x minus 7? So when x is 3, just plug these 3 into x. So I get -3 times 3 squared plus 6 times 3 minus 7. 3 squared is what? 9 times -3 is? Okay. 6 times 3 is? Minus 7. So it's -0.7 plus 18. Negative what? No. -9. And what's the -9 and a -7? Okay. Is that correct? All right. So -16. So that's way down here, though, right? So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 3. I see what I did? So 3, -16. Y'all agree is right here? So here's your axis symmetry. See this right here? This point's how many units for the axis symmetry? 2. So I go 2 this way, 1, and then 2. See what I did? And now you have your 5. Have a what now? No, I would have to. I made up these problems. So the one of your on third test, I would give you a grid in which all of it would fit.
Okay.
No, but here I made it up. And the one in the worksheet, the grids will match the points. But here I had to extend it. You see what I'm doing? And there you go. That's all it is. Okay? And then the rest would be domain and range. What's the range? Well, you know the domain. What's the domain? Yeah. Now the range, so when we go from bottom up, so the range, you remember these arrow pointing down, so you go from where? Negative infinity to this y value, which is -4. Yep. See, it's not that bad. I mean, this is kind of easy to do, right? After the first one was the new one, so you kind of had to get used to it. And then you can do the increasing, decreasing, right? Okay, so let me stop here and just kind of tell you what I need for you to do.